So I think that one of the largest authoritarian actions you can take is to try to usurp as much power for yourself as possible. And that might be done in terms of running things that should be done by Congress, like immigration policy, by using the military. That might be done in ways of like undermining an upcoming election and saying that the election is going to be fraudulent, or it might be done in ways of like avoiding ever being held responsible for things that you do for criminal activity, right? The Supreme Court's granted him criminal immunity. He wasn't impeached in the Senate because they said, oh, well, we can't impeach him. He's already out of office. And he pardoned almost every single person that worked with him. Why would he pardon people like Paul Manafort? That's so crazy. I understand why people might want to argue for pardons for maybe like Flynn or maybe Stone, but Paul Manafort, why? It was so crazy. You can look up how many pardons he's done on the presidential website. It's insane compared to any other president.
What do you think, Dennis? I mean, certainly it sounds like a lot of unilateral action for sure. Do you defend all of the things? Do you dispute that Trump did any of the things Stephen mentioned? And if you don't dispute it, do you defend it?
Yeah, he started to build a wall. That was I don't know whether it's in his province or not. I don't know what the law is. But it is true. He could not get Congress to agree because the Democrats, since Ted Kennedy in the 1990s, have worked to open the border. You cannot have a civilization with an open border. That is a given. I assume Stephen would agree with that open border and keeping a country intact are mutually exclusive. Can we agree on that?
Yeah, that's why nobody asks for an open border.
Oh, yes, the Democrats do. I mean, if you deny that, that's good. You'll be on record then as saying...
Well, define it as policy, Dennis, so we could agree.
This is really critical, really critical. Do you believe, Stephen, that the Democrats have been for a controlled border and not for an open border in the last 10 years?
I think the Democrats tried to pass comprehensive legislation that was written by Langford, a Republican in the Senate. I think Donald Trump and the Republicans are the ones that killed that, and that was on public record. So no, the Democrats have not been for open borders.
Do you believe the Democrats are for a closed border? Okay,
it's not just closed or open, but
can you define it though for us?
The border is a very complicated thing.
Can you define what you mean?
It is very complicated.
It's not complicated.
I'm sorry that you just don't have much information about immigration or the border.
Okay, good. All right. As I said, I prefer clarity to agreement.
Can you define open border, Dennis?
Yes, letting anybody who wants to come into this country come in. It's not complex.
And then to be clear, you think that that's the case right now?
That's the case right now. And that is the case what the Democrats want. That is correct. They have sanctuary cities all over my state.
Excuse me, sanctuary city has nothing to do with immigration policy.
Oh, sure as it does. If you are here illegally, we will not allow ICE or anyone else to take you away. You can come. That's what sanctuary city means.
That is not what a sanctuary city is. That's not what a sanctuary. Sure, I can tell you what it means. When it comes to enforcing immigration, that is exclusively in the purview of the United States government. Now, it tends to be the case that if you're a state official, you can collect information about whether or not a person is here legally or not. And if you want, you can turn that information over to federal authorities like Immigrations and Customs Enforcement or like the Department of Homeland Security. You don't have an obligation to do so. And some cities explicitly say we won't. So a sanctuary city is just a city where if they arrest you, they're not going to do an immigration check. And if you fail, they're going to turn you over to the federal authorities. As somebody that is a conservative, who I imagine would have an appreciation for the concept of federalism, but the important protections of states' rights, because that's what we said when we threw abortion back to the states, you should champion a state deciding whether or not they would want to cooperate with a federal authority when it comes to turning somebody over for matters of deportation. But a sanctuary city does not legalize illegal immigration. It's just whether or not a city wants to cooperate with federal investigators when it comes to turning over an undocumented citizen or immigrant.
Fine. Okay, we can continue.
Do you agree with that, Dennis? I mean, do you recognize that it's an issue of state?
The issue of people crossing a federal border is a federal issue. It is not just a state issue. Okay, it is so elementary. It's a national border. It's not just a state border.
I'd be really careful with that, because that wasn't Abbott's argument when he wanted to enforce the border in Texas. He said that the Texas National Guard should be that way. You just used the Biden administration.
Well, because there's no federal oversight. Because the Democrats are happy to have a great number of people come in. They're potential Democratic voters in their view.
I think it's fair.
So, Dennis,
is there a single lawmaker or is there a single prominent Democrat that said we want open borders?
No.
Okay.
And so what are the open border policies, Dennis? If the sanctuary city you concede
is not relevant, but the answer is no. Okay, go ahead.
If you concede that the sanctuary cities themselves are not the border, what are the open border policies that are at issue that you would want Stephen to either defend or denounce?
No, well, we have to have only legal immigration. I don't know. The rendering of a simple concept complex is a way to avoid the the moral issue, the political issue, the real issue. The real issue is that under Democratic influence since Ted Kennedy, this is not new, but it has been hastened under Joe Biden, the border has been essentially open to millions of people to come into this country illegally. And you can't even say illegal alien. You can't say alien and you can't say illegal. You now say undocumented immigrant. The very fact that they have changed the language is proof that they are for it.
Don't forget that the best way to support the David Pakman Show is by becoming a member, which gives you access to the daily bonus show, the regular show with no commercials. You also get access to our entire archive of every episode dating back a really long time, and plenty of other awesome membership perks. Go to joinpakman.com, joinpakman.com. Okay, let's briefly talk about Project 2025 as we don't have unlimited time. Stephen, I'll go first to you. Project 2025 fears that we're hearing about from the left media ecosystem right now, well-founded fears or overblown or hyperbolic?
I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't really focus much on policy for conservatives because I don't think conservatives have or run on policy anymore. I think that all of the fears around Donald Trump have to do with his disdain for the constitutional democratic republic that we have and his desire to usurp as much power into his sole position as president as possible. And that's what I focus on. I know that I've seen people talk about Project 2025 and people have fears of Project 2025, but conservatives know nothing about policy and they don't even care to run on policy anymore. So I just personally don't focus much on the particular aspects of that platform, although I wouldn't be surprised if Donald Trump and his administration wanted to push a lot, given some of the quotes that have come out, I think from Donald Trump in the past, and I think JD Vance about it, and the association with like the Heritage Foundation, everything else. But it's not a thing that I particularly focus on.
And to be clear, Stephen, you don't focus on it because you don't genuinely think Trump knows anything about it or cares about policy, or because you think it's unlikely to be implemented?
I don't know what the final versions of it would look like when it comes to implementation. I don't know if Republicans will have the necessary majorities in the House or Senate to pass it. My concern is far more singularly with Donald Trump as the head executive than it is with any particular policy platform, because Donald Trump is just not a very effective leader. He's not a good politician. When they were in office, they couldn't pass any policy. They couldn't actually get any legislation passed. So I'm not as concerned about a policy platform as I am about what Donald Trump wants to do as the president or as the executive.
Dennis, what about you? What are your thoughts on the discussion that's been growing, certainly in the last few weeks?
We largely agree. 2025 is irrelevant to the Trump administration, and he has said so. No, I don't know anyone who's read it. It's 800 pages. I haven't read it. Stephen presumably has not read it. It's the Heritage Foundation is a conservative think tank. There are left-wing think tanks, liberal think tanks, conservative think tanks, right-wing think tanks, and they're all permitted to put out whatever they want. Am I permitted? And I'm not being cute. If I'm not, I'm not. But can I ask Stephen a question?
Please.
Okay. Yeah. So Stephen, how do you stand on men who say they're women competing in women's sports?
I'm assuming the question has to do with trans people competing in sports. I think that my personal view is that sports up through probably high school are just there for people to kind of like play games and get along with each other and, you know, like build camaraderie and stuff. So I don't really have much of a concern past or up to that point. Once you get to NCAA or professional events, I think that the dividing between the sexes is very important for athletic competition. So I'm generally opposed to trans people participating in the gender they identify with.
So you know then that the Biden administration has extended the anti-discrimination legislation passed to protect women. They have extended it to trans people. You are aware of that?
That they've done what?
They have extended it to trans people so that
extended what to trans people? I'm sorry.
You cannot discriminate against trans people. If a man says he is a woman in college, he should be allowed to play in college sport. That is the Biden administration's position.
I'm not aware of that right now. I thought it went the opposite. My understanding, just to be clear, my understanding is that right now they can't.
All right. So what is your position? Since I think the whole left stinks, you think Donald Trump stinks. So I talk about the left. So let's go to Gavin Newsom. In California, where I live, there is a law. It is a law. It's not a recommendation. That if a kid, an 8-year-old, says that she is a boy, and the school is not permitted to tell the parents that the girl thinks she is a boy and goes by a boy's name in her school. Do you think that that is a moral and good law?
I don't think about this. I'm so sorry, but when I look at Donald Trump, this is a man who tried to overthrow the election and resist the peaceful transfer of power. I can't think of a thing that I think less about than where trans people stand. Just to be clear, hold on. Just to be clear for people that don't know. Just to be clear for people that don't know my background.
You guys on the left should thank God every day for.
Hold on. Well, wait, Dennis. If Stephen, hold on. If Stephen doesn't want to answer the question as you see it, allow him not to answer it. But let's hear.
I'll answer it. I'll answer it. I was banned from Twitch for opposing the integration of trans people into sports. I don't think it's appropriate. I probably stand in opposition to a lot of the very, very far left.
Okay.
What?
The law. Okay. So let me just go on record. I can give you the rest. We could talk hours.
Sure. What's the California law for the 8-year-old? Go ahead. What was it?
Yes. You cannot, a school cannot tell a parent, doesn't have to, is not allowed to tell a parent if a child identifies as the other sex in a California school.
That would probably be something I'd be opposed to as a parent. I think I would want to know that if my kid was identifying as a different gender in class.
Correct. So you see, if it weren't for Trump, you would have to spend the time with me or anyone else defending the left and their scummy little laws like that ruin lives of kids and have girls get their breasts cut off at 18 or even younger. It's like nothing matters. All that matters is January 6th. Every time I raise an issue, we go back to January 6th.
Because he tried to rebel. It was a rebellion against the peaceful transfer of power.
He told people to go peacefully to the halls of Congress.
He told Mike Pence. Why were they going there? What were they going there for?
To protest the results of the election.
Exactly.
They thought it was cheating. You're right.
Exactly. It was an insurrection. They thought, no, you're not allowed to protest with violence.
You're not allowed to overthrow, but you were allowed to protest.
When they were going there to support Mike Pence, what did they want Mike Pence to do?
Yes, they wanted Mike Pence not to accept certain electors from certain states.
Exactly.
Yes, that's right.
Correct.
Okay, okay.
Which was against the ECA, right? That was illegal under the Electoral Count Act, right?
But I don't agree with that, and that's
fine. I don't agree with insurrectionists either, but you understand the ridiculousness of wanting to have a man who is now usurped criminal immunity as the president. So a lot of the illegal actions that he took. Right. Remember, Roberts, in his opinion, said explicitly that when Donald Trump told his acting and his deputy attorney general, can you guys write fake notes to the state legislatures to say that we found evidence of voter fraud that wasn't there? We can't even criminally review that anymore, right? So a man who's now criminally immune, who tried to overthrow the government, that's going to stand out more in my mind, even if they failed at it, than whether or not 8-year-olds in California, their teachers tell their parents if they're trans or whatever. Okay. I didn't say it doesn't matter, but some things matter more than other things.
Right. In the day, you're right. It matters.
I am.
What happened on January 6th. January 6th is wildly over.